welcome to the Wrestling Time Post Show. It is Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025, and tonight we'll be talking about AEW Dynamite. It's been a while since I've reviewed Dynamite, though. Alright, so tonight's Dynamite was a go-home show to AEW Dynasty. As we all know, Dynasty is this Sunday. So let's kick things off talking about the mixed tornado tag match. Jon Moxley, Marina, Schafir versus Willow, Nightingale, and Swerve Strickland. So, I'm not the biggest Death Rider fan. I'm actually so over the storyline. I hope Swerve Strickland beats Jon Moxley. Seriously, he needs to beat him and take that title off of Jon Moxley. But I actually thought this was a really fun match. I really like how before the match started, there was a brawl between Moxley and Swerve Strickland and Willow and Marina. And I really like this one spot where they teased where Swerve Strickland had Marina and Jon Moxley had Willow, and they were kind of just looking at each other. Moxley was looking at Swerve Strickland was looking at Moxley, and they looked like they were gonna hit a finisher on each of the women, but they ended up not doing that. Another spot that I like about this was the double powerbomb that Willow did to Jon Moxley and Marina. Unfortunately, Swerve Strickland did get superplexed with this. So I do like the fact that Willow did attack Jon Moxley during this. She hit him with a cannonball, which I thought was pretty cool. Marina, she pushed Jon Moxley out of the way, and she took Swerve's kick, and then you had Jon Moxley biting Swerve Strickland's face. This match was just crazy. But in the end, Swerve Strickland and Willow Nightingale were victorious here, and at the end, Jon Moxley did take out Willow at post-match. So, but like I said, I thought this was a fun match. That was a great way to open Dynamite. Again, I'm not the biggest Seth Rider fan, but it was fun. It was a fun match. This match could have been a snooze fest, and that's actually really fun. Get an FTR interview, and Dax got fined $10,000, putting his hands on the ref. He apologized to the ref, and he gives him the cash. He tells the ref to take his wife out to dinner, buy himself something nice, and then he apologized to Cash for also putting his hands on him. And Cash says that they have to talk after Sunday. So I wonder what this means for FTR. Are we gonna have Dax and Cash go their separate ways? Is there gonna be a tag team? I'm very curious to see. There's rated FTR to go up against the trio tags, and I can't help but to think this should have been CMFTR going after the trios titles, because that was a thing before CM Punk got fired. Save the world title and trios titles from the Death Riders. See, I forgot the Death Riders were the trios champions, because they don't even carry the titles out there. But I agree with Io. They need to save the world title and the trios titles from the Death Riders, because we haven't seen the AEW world title since Jon Moxley won the title. We get Timeless Toni Storm versus Penelope Ford. And honestly, this was a decent match. A Timeless, I like Toni. I like her. I've always liked her Timeless character. There is this one spot where, Toni Storm bit Penelope Ford's tongue. I guess, Penelope Ford was trying to, I don't know if she's trying to lick Toni Storm, but Toni Storm bit her tongue. I was like, oh my God, you can't believe she did that. That moonsault off the ring apron to Toni Storm, that Toni is still timeless. I know she is. She'll forever be timeless. That Penelope Ford did to Toni was actually pretty cool. Toni Storm was victorious, no surprise. I mean, come on. And Megan Bayne, who is facing Toni Storm this Sunday, came out and she was just clapping for Toni Storm. So I'm actually looking forward to that match. It looked like, what did you say? It looked like they were French kissing. Huh. So Megan Bayne is a powerhouse. So I'm actually looking forward to her versus Toni Storm. I don't think she'll win the AEW World title, but I do think it'll be a good match between them. I think it's gonna. Megan Bayne is the future of the women's division if she's booked correctly. I would agree. Booking goes a long way. Because look at Deonna Purrazzo. She's a fantastic talent. Could be the face of the division. She's not being booked correctly. We just saw a Strickland interview, and again, you know how I said at the end of the match with Willow and the Willow, Swerve, and the Death Riders, Jon Moxley went after Willow. So they were doing a medical update. And basically, Swerve Strickland put Willow over. Let's see what they do with Megan after Dynasty, right? That's a good question. Let's see what happens to Megan after Dynasty. Is she gonna go back down the ladder, or is she still gonna continue being up here? So he vows to get his hands on Jon Moxley because of what he did to Willow. He calls her strong, powerful, and brave, and that's what he didn't mind facing off against the Death Riders with her. We don't mention Deanna. She deserves better. Yes, she does deserve better. She was actually in NXT, got released, and went to TNA, and became a huge star in TNA. So I don't know if she'll go back to WWE, but never say never. We get the Hurt Syndicate segment. I was not a huge fan of this. I'm not sure where they're going with this with the Hurt Syndicate MJF. Like, they do mention the fact that Shelton Benjamin wasn't there because of the tornadoes and the storm. But, like, basically, MJF wants to help the Hurt Business keep the titles, and then he wants the Hurt Business to help him regain the AEW World title. I'm not entirely sure where this is going. This is kind of like when MJF was feuding with Jeff Jarrett a couple months ago. So I was not a huge fan of this, but at the end, Big Bill and Brian Keith come out and they confront Lashley and MVP, and they have a match, which is a nothing match. It's literally the Learning Tree versus a couple of jobbers. This is just an enhancement match. Was not a huge fan of this at all. And basically, MJF is not joining the Hurt Syndicate. I know he's not joining it, but I guess it's all about scratching my back, I'll scratch yours type of thing. But basically, the Learning Tree, Brian Keith, and Big Bill laid down the challenge to the Hurt Syndicate for those tag titles. This honestly was just not, I don't know. You really did not, in my opinion, you really didn't have to have the face-off a jobber match. I mean, I know the Hurt Syndicate told them to get a win as a tag team, which I guess is why they did it. But really, jobbers, you couldn't just put them against, I don't know, another team or something. So you have Mercedes Monè being interviewed, and she says that Julia is very mysterious and unpredictable, but Julia isn't the greatest TBS champion of all time, and it's going to take more than just tricks to beat her. So she's interrupted by Harley Cameron and Minnie Monet, and Mercedes basically tells Cameron to stay out of her way, and Harley Cameron says that their tag team name is the Monet Wrath Train. Harley Cameron is hilarious. I think she's definitely come a long way as a wrestler. And like I said, I've always thought she was a great singer. You should check out her song, The Inspiration, which is my personal favorite. Maybe MJF will cost Lashley in the match? Maybe. You mean like cost him the tag titles or just a match? So we get Will Ospreay and Kevin Knight versus Blake Christian and Lee Johnson. So one of the things that I did like was I like the fact that they were putting Kevin Knight over. Is like one of the biggest complaints about AEW in the past, it was them not really introducing a wrestler that nobody was familiar with. They just expected everybody to know them. So I did like the fact that they said, "Oh, if you haven't seen who Kevin Knight is," they were basically talking about him. Kevin Knight is like, "Oh yeah, he is fantastic." Now, I'm not the biggest New Japan fan here, but I am familiar with Kevin Knight. If for those of you who don't know, he did was teaming with Kushida, and they were called the Intergalactic Jet Setters. Kevin Knight did make some appearances in TNA. He did team with Kushida on occasion once Kushida was still signed in TNA, so I'm familiar with Kevin Knight. He's a fantastic talent, phenomenal talent, actually. I was kind of hoping he would go to TNA, but that's just me. But I'm happy for him. I'm glad, he's getting a chance to shine. He's fantastic. If you haven't seen Kevin Knight, you really need to check out some of his matches. Although, I would not have mind seeing Kevin Knight versus Leon Slater. That's a good tag team. I don't know if they're still a tag team because I know Kushida, I think he went back to New Japan. And with Kevin Knight and AEW, I don't know if they're still a tag team. But I know they were a tag team, the Intergalactic Jet Setters. But yeah, if you have not seen Kevin Knight, I highly recommend checking out his matches. So they did face off against the System last year. They did face off. Yeah, the System on the tag, and it was a tag team match at Countdown to No Surrender last year. And they did have a couple other matches, so you should check it out. They're really good. Good for Kushida. Miss seeing him on NXT TV. Yeah. All right. So I will say this was a really fun match. This was probably my favorite match of the entire night. Like Will Ospreay and Kevin Knight have such similar styles. I'll get into it right now, but I definitely would not mind seeing. I cannot wait for their singles match. Now, this was really fun match. Like I said, it's my favorite match of the night. Will Ospreay and Kevin Knight were victorious here, and so they did mention we're getting the Owen Hart tournament. I'm just gonna bring up the brackets here, and the men's we're actually getting Kevin Knight versus Will Ospreay. Their match will take place at Dynasty. So let's look at this bracket while we're at it. So that's going to be a good match. I definitely am looking forward to Kevin Knight versus Will Ospreay. We got Brody King versus Konosuke Takeshita. I think Takeshita is going to win that one. Mark Briscoe, Kyle Fletcher. I definitely think it's going to be Kyle Fletcher. Hangman versus a wild card. I don't know who the wild card can be. It's kind of funny that Hangman's getting the wild card considering he was a wild card last year. So be interesting to see who the wild card is. Maybe it's Josh Alexander. You know, the walking weapon. That'd be really cool to see. But let me know in the comment section in the live chat, who do you guys think the wild card is in the men's section? So, like I said, all right. So now let's talk about the women's bracket. We have Jamie Hayter, Billy Starks, Thunder Rosa, Chris Statlander, Julia Hart, Mercedes Moné, Hardy Cameron, Athena. So I honestly think it's going to be Athena and Mercedes Moné here. I think it's probably going to be maybe Thunder Rosa and Jamie Hayter. Who I think might win this? Maybe Mercedes Moné? But I don't know. Would you want to push her to the... It'd be interesting. I think it's going to be Mercedes Moné. Mercedes Moné is probably the favorite to win that one. Let me know who you guys think would win the women's. All right, so afterwards we get an Ops promo. And Samoa Joe's just basically talking about why he started the group in the first place. And he said that the battlefield was genius, so that's why he recruited Hook and Shibata. It's like this was just a basic promo, something special to it. We get Lance Archer versus Brody King, which was dubbed as a big meaty men fighting meat type of match here. This was okay. There was a Don Callis lookalike in the crowd. And he confronted him. Like, he whispered something in his, ear or something. But Brody King was victorious here after he did the chokeslam to Lance Archer and the cannonball. So he may have defeated Lance Archer, but I don't think he's going to get past Kushida. The main event ended up being Cope versus Claudio Castagnoli. This match was a decent match. Cope actually won with, a low blow because, what was happening was Claudio tried to do the concerto, but the ref took the chairs from him. So as the ref took the chairs from him, he got distracted. So this allowed Cope to low blow Claudio, and then he hit him with the spear, so he won. And then last but not least, at the end, you have Strickland. He's getting interviewed by Renee Paquette. And again, it was supposed to be a medical update on Willow, but instead he apologized to Renee. He said he's going to go looking for her husband, which we all know is Jon Moxley. And Heyman came out yelling like a madman, saying that he's wasting his time because he was not going to allow him to win the title. Like, I like the fact that security immediately came down and separated Hangman and Swerve Strickland. Now, Hangman mentions that Swerve Strickland broke into his house. Hangman mentions that, he burned down Swerve Strickland's house, and Swerve deserved it. And Swerve Strickland says he knows, and this seems to be catch Hangman by surprise. Like, he knows he deserves it. Like, so, and then Hangman just kind of just walks away, but with Hangman walking away, this allows the Death Riders to attack him and drag Swerve Strickland into the ring. And so Wheeler Yuta pours a bucket of glass shards in the ring, and they powerbomb Swerve Strickland onto these glass shards, which look like that. And then he rolls up like the Undertaker with all these glass shards, and he's mad. He is furious. So, and that is how Dynamite goes off the air. So, this is a go-home show, and I've always felt and maintained that go-home shows are supposed to get you excited for the pay-per-view. If you haven't been watching Dynamite on a consistent basis, and you tune in tonight, you're supposed to tune in and be excited for Dynasty. It should make you want to pay the $49.99 for the pay-per-view this weekend. You should want to tune in. And honestly, this really didn't get me that excited for Dynasty. Really. I did like the mixed tag match. I did like Will Ospreay and Kevin Knight versus Blake Christian and Lee Johnson. Did not care for the learning tree at all. Yeah, but I guess I've always said the purpose of a go-home show is to get you excited to sell you Dynasty. This really didn't sell me Dynasty. I'm probably not going to watch Dynasty live because I have other stuff going on. But even if I was going to watch it live, still, I would be watching it live regardless. But yeah, so on a scale from a 1 to Sean Spears' perfect 10, I'd say this is a 3 out of 10. Okay, as a go-home show, this is a 3 out of 10. This didn't do its job. If this was just a regular run-of-the-mill Dynamite, I'd give it a 6. Wasn't too bad, but it wasn't great either. You give it a 1 out of 10. Horrendous go-home show. Didn't even know the pay-per-view was on Sunday. Oh, wow, you forgot? Yeah, they didn't do a good job. All right, well, with that being said, thank you guys all so much for watching. And for the continued support, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell so you get notified whenever I go live or release a new video. And if I don't see you guys tomorrow on Body Slam for the TNA review, I definitely will see you guys here Friday after SmackDown. Bye.